Love Luna.
Welcome to episode 2 of Self-Love Lessons with Luna. Today we're going to be looking at the importance of our inner child and reparenting ourselves. Most of us didn't have great role models growing up. It's not to say that our parents were crap, it's just that they didn't give the examples that we needed in our life. So let's get stuck in. My parents taught me a lot of things. I got dressed this morning because at some point I suggest that my darling mother taught me how to do it. She taught me how to brush my teeth, how to comb my hair. She taught me how to exist in the world, as did my dad. As we grow up, our parents teach us everything that we now know, particularly between the ages of 0 and 7. Between those crucial ages, when we're first born to the age of 7, we are absorbing absolutely everything that comes into our world. That's you, that's me, that's all of us. Our parents can only teach us what they know. As guardians, whether or not it's your parents, your grandparents, whoever it was that raised you, they can only teach you what they know. There's only a certain capacity that they have. If they didn't know how to unconditionally love, then they sure as shit can't teach you how to unconditionally love. For the most case, our parents have done the best job that they possibly could with the resources they have at the time. I know that we all have issues to some extent with our parents. Perhaps it's just a little niggle around the Christmas dinner table and they piss you off. Perhaps it's that. But for many of us, it's much bigger than that. Our parents have created a whole bunch of trauma for us. And no, this video isn't about going into an absolute bitch session about our folks. As we grow up, we can begin to understand as adults that our parents were just doing the best that they possibly could. If you're a parent yourself, you would know this because it's much tougher than you think, right? This whole parenting garb where you have to deal with all of your own stuff, and then you have these tiny little humans that you're meant to look after and guide and teach and grow. They might come to you and say, "Hey Mum, I need to learn how to do algebra. Can you help me with my homework?" And you kind of scratch your head and go, "I don't really know how to do algebra." That is a innocuous small example. But when you really think about it, we can only teach what we know. If we don't know how to do algebra, we cannot teach our kids with their homework. If we don't know how to self-love, how on earth can we teach our children? Self-love and self-esteem is not something that many people know how to do. To have a strong sense of self-esteem, we need to go through a whole series of processes where time and time again, we try new things, we fail, we get picked back up again, and we learn that we're okay. This usually doesn't happen. If you think about the kind of age group that most of us are at, even if you're 20 watching this video or 15, you have parents that do not know this. If you're 60, then you had parents that by no means would have known how to do this. Because we're going through our own stuff, right? We all have our neuroticisms. We're still trying to deal with our own childhood trauma. And then we have children. And then we develop childhood trauma for them as we go along. And we're not to blame. Our parents are not to blame. Perhaps they've treated you poorly. Perhaps they didn't give you the emotional support that you needed growing up. It's probably pretty likely. My mum is absolutely incredible and I love her dearly. I know as an adult I can see that she never got the love that she needed. How on earth could she teach me how to love myself when she didn't know how to do it? Similarly with my dad. If you don't have the skills, you cannot pay it forward. What ends up happening is as adults, we haven't really fully formed into that adulting kind of vibe. Have you ever felt that? Where you think, oh my God, I am such a child, still. Now I'm 36 and at 24 I felt like a child. And at times now I still feel like a child. I still feel like I'm clutching at straws, trying to grab onto things, trying to hold on to things. We all have an inner child. The child that maybe didn't get the love that it needed. Maybe it got love but didn't get encouragement. Maybe it got encouragement but was put down at the same time. Maybe the pressure was high. Maybe you were required to be really perfect. Whatever your version of neuroticism or trauma that you got as a child, it's still there. If you haven't been through mentorship programs, if you haven't been through therapy, or even if you have, it's likely there's a part of your inner child that's still waiting to be parented. Because in those really crucial small moments as a child when we were dismissed because mum was busy, genuinely busy, but as a kid we just made it mean that it was awful and that I was awful. In those moments when dad didn't show up to the game because they had more important things to do, probably putting food on the table, that crushed little girl is still there. And as we grow up and as we age and adult comes on, we kind of just put on this layer. It's like we come into adulthood and we start putting on coats. And look, I'm a grown-up now, can't you see? I drive a car, I go to work, I have keys and a license and I can buy alcohol. I must be an adult now. Yet I think that there's often this little voice inside of us that's begging for attention, begging for validation that we didn't get as a child, begging for the love and nurturing and encouragement that we didn't get as a child. And so what do we end up doing? For the most part, we reach outwards to get that. Much like we did when we were a kid. We didn't know how to fix it ourselves as a child. How could we possibly? We're children. So our parents were the source of our validation. Our parents were the source of our reassurance. Our parents were the source of everything when we're first born for a long time. And as adults, we still seek that comfort. We still need that security. We still need that sense of I'm okay. And we scramble for it as adults. If we haven't sorted that out from childhood, and I've been this for a long time in my life, then we seek to get it externally. We might have codependent relationships with partners where we're so needy that we can't be alone. We might have situations where we isolate ourselves so much because the world can never provide for us. We drink, we smoke, we take drugs, we eat, we work out, we train, we do whatever we can to try to feel this sense of need, of nurturing inside of ourselves, not really understanding why we're doing all these things. The inner child is waiting. That little child inside of us still wants the love and the nurturing and the kindness and a hug that says, my darling, you are okay and I've got you. Our parents were doing the best that they possibly could with the resources that they had. For some of you, that was really shitty. Some of you, it was somewhere on the spectrum from really shitty to all right. But somewhere along that line, we got missed out. Somewhere along that line, we couldn't get the needs met from our parents. Mostly, when someone cries, when a child is in need, we say to that kid, don't cry, darling, it's okay, don't cry. And we suppress our emotions. Don't cry, be happy, put a smile on your face. And so our emotional needs are not met. We don't learn how to actually deal with the emotion that's in front of us. We only learn how to put on a happy face. I was raised to put on a happy face. I was raised that the emotions were too much. I was raised to believe that if I just smiled and carried on, then I would be okay. But I wasn't. Smiling and moving forward didn't make me any happier. Because she's still waiting in here, this little girl of mine. And this is why we must become the guardian for ourselves. Now that we are adults, the trauma of our childhood is our responsibility. And you can blame and you can bitch and you can moan and say, my bloody parents and this, that and the other, and you can go bananas and you can wish them all the ill that you want to. But it's up to you now. You're the one that's in charge now. We must make a decision to actually grow up and take responsibility for our own emotional needs now. Because our inner child is screaming. Sure, maybe your parents weren't there for you in the way that you needed them to be. Maybe they're still not. It's that moment when they fall off the pedestal and you understand that your parents aren't the gods and goddesses that perhaps you thought that they were. It's that moment as you grow up and as you come into adulthood and beyond adulthood, well into it, you have to begin to make a decision. If you want happiness, that it's up to you. That your emotional well-being is your job. You can go seek it out in relationships, you can go seek it out in food or addiction or whatever it happens to be, but she will always be in there screaming for you. Because you're the one that she needs. She doesn't need anybody else. She needs you. And this is why we must reparent ourselves. We must be the parents that we never had. We must be able to discern between who it is that is screaming and who I can be for the child inside of me that is screaming. In a way, we need to split ourselves a little bit. We need to recognize the adult. Because I'm functioning, right? I can drive a car, I do hold down a job, I pay my taxes, I know how to budget. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm really good at as an adult. But emotionally, perhaps we still have that crying child. And the more that we ignore it, well, have you ever had a kid and try to ignore it when it chucks a tantrum? Yeah. The louder it gets, the louder and louder it screams. If you do not give attention to a 2.5-year-old when it's wanting it, it'll go berserk. But you know what happens eventually? If that 2.5-year-old keeps getting ignored, if that 2.5-year-old does not get the attention or love or anything that it needs, then eventually it goes quiet. And eventually it goes small. And eventually it believes that it's not worthy of love. It's your job to do something about it. And here's how. You're the guardian. It's time that you stepped into a role whereby you are the teacher of yourself. You're the guardian, you're the coach, you're the mentor, you're the parent to yourself. This is what reparenting is all about. It's not necessarily going back to your childhood and undoing all the things that have been done. It's not necessarily going back and writing letters to your parents and clearing it all, although that's really important and can be done. It's the everyday things. It's being there for yourself when you need yourself the most. That when you're having an absolute panic attack, when you're feeling really worthless, when you don't know how to cope with something, it's being the best friend, the auntie, the guide, the presence that you never had. This is what reparenting is all about. It's about listening, about hearing the needs of what this inner child needs from you, paying attention to what's going on and giving it what it needs. There's a beautiful song by an artist called Sia, and it's not one of her singles, but it's called I'm In Here. And the lyrics move me to such extent, I highly recommend that you listen to it. I'm in here, can anybody hear me? Can anybody help? Can you hear my call? Are you coming to get me now? I've been waiting for you to come asking me. I need you to hold all of the darkness I cannot live with inside of me. It's beautiful and it moves me in ways that are just unbelievable. Because there is darkness inside of you that you cannot manage yourself. Yet there's another part of you that can. Reach inside of yourself and go rescue the part of you that is waiting. The part of you that you need to be for you. And be your own damn hero. The first step for you to be able to start being that parent and that role model for yourself is to listen. You need to start connecting with that voice inside of us. Maybe she's 6, maybe she's 3, maybe she's 13. It's likely that you're going to have different versions of your inner child come forward and need attention. Mainly from a point of view of traumatic events. When they didn't show up to that concert. When you hurt yourself and you were disregarded. When you were in pain and you had no one to listen. All these different little moments in your childhood and your adolescence that need attention. Pay attention to her. Listen to her. Find out what she needs. What is it in that moment that she never got back then? I appreciate that this is a little scary. To dive deeply into who you are and to dive deeply into your childhood. But she needs you. And in order to come to a place of self-love, in order to really warm yourself and be the one that you need to for her, she needs attention. So listen to her needs. I know for me that there are times when I'm feeling really inadequate. It's an experience I've had a lot in my life, inadequacy. I just don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like whatever I've done that day or who I am or whatever it happens to be is enough. And when I listen to that needs, I hear a little girl who desperately wants reassurance, right? I hear a little girl who needs validation. Imagine just for a moment that that was a child in front of you, that you have this beautiful, precious creature, and rather than just chuck a tantrum, they come up to you and they say, Mum, Auntie, I feel like I'm nothing. What would you say to her? What would you give to her in that moment? How could you help her see the divinity in her that you already do? This is what listening is all about. That's step number 1. You need to start listening to what she has to say. Pay attention. Step number 2, creating a really safe, healthy space. You're new to this. It's unlikely that you have spent much time looking after you, looking after your own emotional needs. So you need to create a really safe space for yourself. Decide to step into the role of being parent or guardian. Step into that role and decide what kind of space that you want to be in with that. Do you want to be judgmental? Probably not. Do you want to be kind? Non-judgmental, listening, gentle, appreciative? What are the things that you never got that you can now be? And trust me, you can do this, because I know how many of you are kind, beautiful souls to everyone around you. You give love left, right and centre. You're chucking it at people. I know you. I know that you're a martyr very often and that you give more to people than you ever give to yourself. You know how to be a really kind, beautiful friend. A really kind, beautiful aunt or parent. You know how to do that. Create the safe space as if the little girl is coming to you in desperate, dire need and can tell you exactly what it is that they need from you. Create a safe space for yourself to be able to express what she needs to. The third step is self-soothing. It's wonderful to have friends and family to be able to reach out to, and mentors, guides, therapists, healers, and the rest. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do. There are going to be times where You need to look after you. Self-soothing. Literally, there are times where I've laid in bed patting my head. Because it's what my mum used to do when I was a kid and I loved it. It made me feel really safe and really happy. Sometimes I just pat myself or I give myself a kiss on the shoulder and I tell myself that I love you. I say, I love you, Luna. And I hold my heart dearly. And I tell myself that it's okay to be all of me. I say, Luna, all of you is welcome. Your sadness and your pain and your trauma and your grief. I'm here for you, Luna. Even if I don't know what to do, even if I don't have any tools to be able to help the poor inner child inside of myself, I give myself a hug. I take myself to bed. I make myself a cup of tea and I pat my head and I'm really gentle with myself and I soothe myself. Sometimes I might even rock myself. Imagine you are that child. Imagine what you do for a 4-year-old who's just come to you and told you that they're suicidal. The 4-year-old who might come to you and say, I don't think that I'm worthy of love. What kind of soothing do you give that person? Now apply it to yourself. Step number 4 is that you have to take responsibility for this. You have to want it. If you really want to have self-love, then you have to take responsibility that you are the guardian. This is a short one because you have to make a decision eventually that you're going to be the one to support yourself. You can always reach out to friends and family, but you feel really confident and self-assured when you know that you are the one. You know that you are the one to rely upon yourself. That's security, that's comfort. I'm going to be okay because you know why? I've got me and I'm the best damn thing that I've ever had. And I'm going to continue to be there for me every step of the way. You must take responsibility. Step number 5, rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. This takes practice. You may not have ever done this for yourself. Practice makes progress. Every single time you do this, you build a bit more trust. Don't expect your inner child to straight away be like, oh my God, thank you for rescuing me. It's been hurt and it's been caged for a really long time. So it's likely that it might take a little while to build the trust. For you to be consistent is really important. Stay with it. You're gonna make mistakes and that's okay. But continuing to show up whenever you can. And when you make a mistake, apologize to yourself. I know that when I cross my own boundaries and do things and let people do things to me that I really shouldn't have, I apologize. When I eat the 3rd helping of cake because I'm ignoring my inner child who needs some attention, I say, I'm sorry, my darling Luna. I'm so sorry. I'll do better again tomorrow. Not because eating cake is bad, but because I was ignoring her. She had something to say and I didn't listen. And that's what I'm apologizing for not showing up. That's okay. Practice makes progress. Rinse and repeat. That is step 5. The bonus step here, let's call it number 6, 5.0. Forgive easily. Please forgive yourself for not being there for you. In the past, but also in the present. Like I just said, you're never going to get this right, particularly straight off the bat. It's going to be a process. You are going to learn how to do this over time. The more that you practice the steps, the better at it you're going to get. And lessons take time. You weren't crawling one day and then ran a marathon. Heck, I couldn't run a marathon now. You hear what I'm saying? You can't just go from crawling to running immediately. You have to learn to walk and fall down a lot in the process. So forgive easily and quickly and with haste. Forgive yourself. My friends, you are the one that you have been waiting for. You might be seeking that lover, that partner, that person who's going to fix everything for you. That knight in shining armor, that hero. you are the one that you have been waiting for. Be the hero. Be the parent. Disengage the child part self so you can engage with it as your adult self and help raise it. Raise that part of yourself that was never loved in the way that it needed to be loved. It's your job now. Nurture it. Tell it I love you on a regular basis, even if right now your inner child doesn't believe it. I post new videos every week. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feelings, your comments, and actually even your questions. If you're stuck and you don't know where to go here, comment below. Send me a PM on whatever platform you follow me on, and I'll get back to you. If you have questions, I always want to be able to help provide the answers that perhaps I have. I only know what I know, like I said in the beginning. I only teach what I've learnt. And I'm always happy to answer any questions that you may have to the best of my ability. Share the love. If this has been important to you, if you've learned some really valuable lessons, even one thing, share it with someone who might need it. We all need a role model in our lives. So why not be it for yourself? New videos every week. Click subscribe and I'll see you then. Much love.